I was about 14 when this happened. I had been in a really dark place mentally, dealing with depression and whatnot. And then I met this guy on Snapchat. He told me his name was William and he thought I was pretty. He also said he liked my handle, Dark Times 14. I went through his stories and he looked like a super generic emo guy. And after a short while of talking to him, my little tween heart was hooked. Everything was going great, but then I started noticing some things. Like this gray BMW that would drive up and down my block at least once a day. Sometimes it would pull over and park for a few minutes and then take off. Sometimes it wouldn't stop at all. I also noticed that whenever I was watching something on TV and texting William, he'd find a way to bring up the show that I was watching. I didn't think much of it at first because usually I would post about what I was watching. But then I started watching a new show and I hadn't posted anything about that show. And so when William started to bring up the show, I asked him, "How do you know I'm watching Pretty Little Liars?" Because I had just started watching that. And he said, "Oh, you just seem like the type that would like that show." So I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, so I just dropped it. Fast forward about 2 more weeks and I'm with some friends at a nearby park. And when I turn my head, boom, there's that gray BMW again. It's closer than usual, so I can see the person inside of it. It's an older guy, maybe in his 30s, just watching us. I got really uncomfortable but didn't bring it up to my friends. I didn't bring it up to them because at this point none of them knew about William or that I thought that I was being followed. So we kept hanging out and eventually it starts to get dark, so I know it's time to go home soon. I go get a quick drink at the water fountain. And that's when I notice that the guy gets out of his car and walks towards me. My middle school brain is trying to rationalize that this cannot be the same BMW that I've been seeing driving around my house. But he came directly up to me and immediately grabbed my hand to shake it and said, "Hi there, you're Dark Times 14, aren't you?" My blood went ice cold. I looked around and tried to make eye contact with my friends, but he was blocking my view. So I said, yeah, who are you?" He smiled at me, this really wide grin, and said, "I'm William. I came to see you in person." At which point, I tried to pull my hand away, and I tried to step around him, but he blocked my path, saying, "Why don't we take a drive? We can go get ice cream." I shook my head and tried to go around him again, but he sidestepped me again and still would not let go of my hand. I think my friends noticed because they came up to us, and William released my hand and started to back up, while watching William get back into his car and drive away. My whole group of friends crowded me, and we headed back to my place, making sure that we weren't being followed. I blocked William and reported the account, and thanked my friends for helping me. I didn't tell my parents what happened that day, though. I was too worried that I would get into trouble for talking to a stranger online, which I knew I wasn't supposed to do. Eventually, I worried about this guy being out on the streets, and I ended up having a long talk with my mom about the situation, who helped me fill out a police report. But the account the stalker had used blocked me, and I didn't have much other proof, so there wasn't much the police could do. In the end, I did learn to block all strangers who tried to add me and to stay in ghost mode on Snapchat to be extra safe. I'd had Snapchat for a while and plenty of friends on there, so I typically kept my Snap map open to everyone, and I didn't think any real harm could come from that until this happened. This guy added me on Snapchat. I got a bad vibe from him. His username was creepy and his Bitmoji was just disturbing. Out of curiosity, I did add him back, thinking maybe we had a mutual friend. We started talking, and then I started to feel like I was being watched. Luckily, nothing happened. At least, the first night nothing did. So we stopped talking for a couple of days, and once we started talking again, he wanted to meet up and hang out with me at the skate park, like right that second. Keep in mind, it's about 10:30 at night. I'm still in high school. I knew if I asked my parents, they would say absolutely not. So instead, I told him we could meet up after school. But when I showed up, it was pretty empty. So I stayed for about 20-30 minutes and then went back home. As I was walking home, I felt like someone was following me. And every now and again, I heard footsteps from behind. But when I would check, I didn't see anyone. So I decided to take the long way back to my house in case someone was behind me. That way I could potentially lose them. And I thought that I did. But later on that night, I heard noises. It sounded like someone was outside of my bedroom window. When I got up to see what it was, I saw a dark figure running out of my backyard. That's when I started to get paranoid, that some stranger knew where I lived. This was a huge wake-up call for me, so I went on Snapchat and went into ghost mode. No more location services being enabled. For the next week or so, I didn't hear from him, nor did I have that feeling of being followed. So when my parents wanted to leave town for the weekend to celebrate their anniversary, I said sure, no problem. Plus, I wanted to stay home to help take care of the kittens. Friday was fine. Nothing remarkable happens. But Saturday was a different story completely. As I was upstairs getting ready for bed, someone broke into my house. I heard the sound of a door swinging open, followed by the sound of footsteps. At first, they were pacing around slowly, and I heard someone calling out. Then the steps became more frantic as the person went upstairs closer to where I was hiding. I can hear the intruder's voice clearer now. He's calling out, "You belong to me. You belong with me. You belong to me. You belong with me." He's saying this over and over again. At this point, I'm scared and hiding in my mom and dad's closet. So I opened the gun safe. Then I pulled out the gun. It was already fully loaded. As the footsteps grew closer and closer, I turned the safety off, put my finger on the trigger, and aimed at the door. I heard him shuffling around the room, calling for me, telling me I belonged to him. I'm his. I mentally prepared myself to survive. As he opened the closet door, I shot him in the chest. And just in case someone else was with him, I stayed in the closet and called 911. When the police arrived, I told them everything that happened. The police were able to identify him and said that he had a criminal record of battery, assault, and burglary on multiple accounts. I was extremely grateful that my parents taught me how to protect myself and that I survived. So I was brand new to Snapchat. I just got to college and all my friends were using it, so they taught me how. And it was fun at first. We just sent silly pictures back and forth using all the different filters. And different people from Facebook or my contact list, or sometimes people I didn't know at all, would add me. All in good fun. But one day, someone named Anything For You added me on Snapchat and instantly messaged, "Hey cutie, how are you?" with a heart. I figured it was probably a guy I knew flirting with me. So I sent him back an eyebrow raised emoji and replied, "I'm doing good. You think I'm cute?" He replies with another red heart and, "You are on my top 5. I don't know what that means, but right away, I kind of want to know who this guy is. But for the next couple of days that we were messaging, he would never tell me his name or send any pictures of himself. The most he would do was send stupidly drawn stick figures instead. So one day while I was in the library, he finally sent me a picture, but I knew immediately that it wasn't a real picture of him. It looked like an ad, just a guy sitting in a library with bookshelves in the background. Then he messaged, "I see you." So I look behind me, I look all around, but I don't see anyone suspicious, just a bunch of different college kids in their own groups doing their own thing. I sent him a confused emoji and replied, "I don't see you. Why don't you just come say hi?" The next picture he sent me was a poster of my college mascot, along with a message that said, "I was so nervous, you're just too cute." And so I sent him a message asking him if he goes to my school. He opened the message, but he did not reply. Things got weirder after that small incident. He started to send weird messages like, "I see you everywhere. It's so funny how close I am to you. And one day you'll know who I am." He also started sending me pictures of me. Ones I guess he had been taking, some alone, some with friends. I started wondering whether or not one of my friends was playing a big elaborate joke on me. So I confronted them. They told me they had no idea what I was talking about. And then after they listened to everything that's been happening, they all agreed that I had some type of an obsessive stalker on my hands. But a part of me didn't think that that was realistic. Then my secret admirer started sending pictures of only me and nothing else. No texts, nothing. I started to pay very close attention to my surroundings, but I still never noticed anyone lurking. Eventually, I decided to just ignore him. But after weeks of ignoring him, I finally let curiosity get the best of me, and I started opening the messages. Picture after picture of me, all over campus, coming out of bathrooms, coming out of classrooms, everywhere. Some from far away, and some a little too close up for comfort. So then, that day I decided to stay in my dorm room all day because I was becoming paranoid. I didn't know if it was a stalker. I didn't know if it was one of my friends, so I just wanted to be alone. I was pleasantly surprised when I didn't hear from him all day, and I fell asleep. But the next morning, I woke up to almost 50 missed messages from him. At first, I couldn't make out the pictures because they were dark and kind of far away, but then I was horrified as the pictures went from far away to extreme close-ups of me. My face, asleep, in my own bed in my own dorm room last night. I immediately called campus police as I looked around the room to see if he was still in there. Campus police arrived pretty quickly and they checked for evidence of forcible entry. I told them about my stalker and showed them my Snapchat. Unfortunately, they couldn't see any of the actual pictures or messages because they delete after viewing. So I had to follow up with the police, who said they would try to find the perpetrator and retrieve the pictures. I continued going to school, but I moved back home. I didn't hear anything from my stalker for the entire second semester. Eventually, life started to go back to normal, until one evening, my phone vibrated and this wave of dizziness took over me as I read, "Anything for you, sent you a message." I was conflicted about what to do in that moment. Maybe I shouldn't have opened the message. Maybe I should have deleted Snapchat from my phone entirely. When I opened the message, I saw two very clear pictures, one of my house and the other of me having coffee at a cafe around the corner from earlier this morning. I contacted the police immediately. I was afraid he had gotten into my house while I was at the cafe. I was afraid he might even still be there. The police came and they didn't find anyone. It's been quiet again, and I hope it stays that way. I have also learned how to screenshot, screen record, and disable location services in Snapchat. I haven't deleted Snapchat, nor have I blocked him. This stalker already knows what college I go to and where I live. I won't block him, not until he's caught.